In this session, you're going to take a look at index color separations, and I'm going to refer to this as index style color separations because index really is a functionality or a color model or color mode in Adobe Photoshop, which can also be done very easily and very quickly in CorelDRAW. One of the main advantages to working with CorelDRAW is the fact that you have all of your vector tools and raster tools in the same application, and it's very easy to use and work with. You know, throughout the history of screen printing, we've really come to think that Photoshop is the tool for color separations and raster images. And the fact of the matter is that's really not true. It's not based on a real understanding of what's possible within CorelDRAW. And we're going to see some of this in this video. Some things probably you've never seen before, you probably never even imagined could be done in CorelDRAW. And when you see how easily it can be done and understand how to apply them and use them, then it can make a significant change in your screen printing business. You know, for years, actually decades, before we started coming out with this understanding from AdvancedTshirts.com, everybody was doing this in Photoshop or standalone applications and thinking, well, Corel's just a vector program. Index is a color mode in Photoshop, but it's really based on a type of screen printing or halftoning that's referred to as FM, and we'll explain some of that here in this video so we've got a good understanding. You know, as screen printers, we really want to be in a position that we have a firm understanding of color, what we can do with our tools, and how to print and reproduce color. If we understand how to work with color effectively, then we're going to be able to put out better prints, better vibrance in our printing. We'll also be able to have a better workflow in our art department. You know, when we talk about color separations, and there's been so many problems in the industry and so much bad understanding and bad training, and really in screen printing I can tell you that we have suffered some very horrible gurus. What happens is that people who are printers sometimes will start to think or believe that they're experts in everything. The graphics applications, what can be done, how it can be done. And the truth of the matter is, I've been working in CorelDRAW for decades now, and I can tell you that I have yet to find anybody in the screen printing industry that really, outside of a few individuals that I work very close with, that really understand CorelDRAW and what's possible with it. They say, well, that's just a vector application, you need this plug-in for Photoshop. When the truth of the matter is, that's completely based on ignorance and doesn't have any foundation in reality whatsoever. The fact of the matter is, Corel has some flexibility relating to color that you're not going to find in any other applications. Now, people are going to say, Photoshop this, Photoshop that. I'm not against Photoshop, but I am against not understanding digital color, not working with it correctly, and then turning something that should take minutes into hours using tools and techniques that are completely ineffective. And that hurts businesses. I mean, if I look back at the last 2 decades in screen printing and this teaching about simulated process and index color and what's gone on there, and 2 or 3 hours to do separations, I mean, the guys that make the plugins for Photoshop, they offer separation services on their website. So if you make a plugin but yet you're selling separation services, stop and think about that for a minute. Because the reality is there's something wrong there. What's going on here? Why do we need all of these techniques and stuff that take hours, only work, you know, out of the box 30 or 40% of the time? It's because we don't understand color. And working in your computer, all color is digital and mathematic. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4 divided by 2 equals 2. It's math. So if you understand the math and you're working with it correctly and you understand color and digital color, then things like color separations are going to be very, very easy for you. And as a screen printer, you really want to be in that position because, you know, just a couple of months ago I was talking to one of our followers that understands color, and the client came in the shop with a piece of art, and he'd just been down the street to the big shop with, you know, 5 or 6 automatics in the big art department with all the Photoshop special color separators. Gave him the image, the art department took it, said we're going to need 11 colors to print this. Well, the guy, you know, the budget was huge. He didn't want to spend that type of money. He went down the street, there's a guy in the garage with CorelDRAW, he hands him the image, the guy looks at it, puts it in Corel, takes the parts of, well, I can print that with 4 colors, this is what it'll cost. Well, he got the bid. That was a $5,000 print run. So if you understand color and how to use your CorelDRAW application, how to do color separations, then you can be in a position to take work away from your competition because of your understanding. And it goes way beyond that, because then you're going to be able to print color reproduction, which is what we are, printers. We graphics professionals. We reproduce color more effectively, and the stuff that's going out of your shop is going to be better than the stuff that's going out of your competition shop, and you're going to be in a position to compete more effectively. So we'll go ahead and take a look at index style color separations here in CorelDRAW, something you've probably never seen before, but once you see how this works, you'll see how easy it is. But I do want to lay a foundation for halftones and the type of halftone screening that we'll be working with, because understanding that, then we can move into the meat of the color separation or the index style color separations in CorelDRAW X6. So to start out here, I want to take a look at halftone dots versus dithered halftones. And here I've got a gradient set up. The one here on the left is based on halftone dots, and if we zoom in here, we can see the actual circles of the halftone dots. Now, what happens here, and I've got a video on YouTube about how halftones work and how ripping happens and all of that, but basically we're taking the information, the tonal information, and simulating it through dots based on lines per inch and the size of the dots. And you can see as you go down through the gradient or the tone here, the dots get smaller and the appearance of the gray gets smaller. Now over here to the right, I've got dithered halftones. And these are all based on squares of the same size, and then the density of the squares becomes lighter as you go down through, and that again simulates a continuous tone gradient or image. Now here I've got a 10% gray vector object, and here I've converted it to halftone dots at 45 LPI. Here is a dithered halftone image, same image, 150 DPI, because we're working with resolution when we're dealing with index style color separations. Now if you can hold a 10% dot at 45 LPI, as you can see there, you'll be able to hold these squares that are set up at 150 DPI for resolution. Very different type of printing as far as screen printing is concerned compared to your standard halftones. Another thing you want to be aware of with index is that we don't blend colors. We don't print yellow on top of red to get orange. We'll typically print the orange or the yellow. Again, we're simulating continuous tone or continuous color through dots or squares. Index color separations and resolution. You want to be aware this index color separations will be converted to halftones based on the resolution of the image. The resolution is typically between 150 and 200 DPI, depending on the size of dots you can hold and the screen mesh you'll want to be printing with. Now those are some of the basics relating to the halftones, but the reality is everything that's going on here is all about the simulation of continuous tone images. Here I've got a grayscale image of Marilyn Monroe. Here's the same image converted to halftones. Now this doesn't render very well in CorelDRAW on the computer, but if we zoom in we can see that we're simulating the tone using just one color. In other words, all different tints and shades of gray and black and white that are in here are being simulated even though we're printing with just one color. What happens is that your eye can't make out the small dots, and it begins to fill in the information based on what it believes it would be there. So it creates the illusion of a continuous tone image through dots. And here we have one that's been dithered. And you'll notice that right here you can see the black and the white, but as we zoom out, it begins to trick your eye as you see it from a distance. And now it looks like a continuous tone image, even though it's not a continuous tone image. And then we can do the same thing with color. We can do a simulation of continuous color tone images working with halftones or dots from our graphics applications through the screen printing process. In other words, we print our screen, we print the color, burn our screen, print the color or the squares side by side, and this is actually set up with the white. It would be 5 colors. This tiger converted to an index image, or actually what's an 8-bit image in CorelDRAW. Now the thing we want to be aware of when we're working with index is understanding tints, shades, and tones. Tints of color, and you notice here with this red, is basically as I start to add white to it, I get tints. I get shades when I add black, and I get tones when I add gray. And this can be any color, and actually this is set up as blends, but here I could go and change this to a blue, and I'd get tints of blue. Now if we look at our tiger and we understand some things about color, and I'll get into more stuff later on relating to understanding this, but you can see our tiger really is going on between the red here and the yellow. And that's really a limited color range, and that's why we could convert that to just a 5-color image. And the fact is, if I had, say, blues and greens in here, then I need much more than 5 colors. And really, that's one of the things about index that's different than simulated process, is that with index, you're not blending colors. So if you have a lot of color in the image, you're going to need a lot of colors in your color separation. That's why we can see index color separations that go up into 12, 14 colors. If you've got, purples, blues, sky green, sky blues, greens, yellows, etc. in the image, then you're going to need all of that in your index color separation. So as a screen printer, if you're working with just a 4 or 6 color press, you want to be able to look at images, understanding how many colors are in the image when you look at it. What are you dealing with in the color? And we can see, looking at this image, that we're just dealing with, red, yellow, black, white, gray, and that we can simulate that with just a few colors, even in the index color separation process. Now, if I was printing this as a simulated process, because it's limited colors, I'd still need, red, yellow, black, and white. I could do this with probably 4 colors, because I would use the red and yellow blending to get my oranges. Whereas with index color, I'm going to actually separate the orange itself. A little bit different type of printing, but yet this type of printing is very effective, and you can get very good results with it. Now, understanding that, here we've got an eagle here, and you can see we need a lot more colors here. We can't get away with just a few colors in this. And this is, I got this down as low as I could, and some of the blue is actually coming in the 8-bit conversion, actually in the wings of some of the shading, and I could actually work on that and tweak that out some more. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this works, and we'll start by working with some basic images here. I don't want to get too in-depth, and I'll try and do some more sessions on the index color separation in the near future here, but let's start out with a grayscale image. We can very easily do a nice grayscale color separation working with index directly in CorelDRAW very quickly. Let's say we wanted to separate this image into a grayscale type color separation. I could do that very easily. And I actually like to work with vector objects and kind of pick out my colors and things like that myself when I'm looking at the image. And here I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, I could probably do this with white, gray, and black, or I could do it with white, 2 grays, and a black. And I could just go ahead and create like a vector object here. And we'll fill this with black, and then I'll come over here and I'll go ahead and duplicate this a couple of times. I'll hit Control R, go ahead and fill this with white, and this I'll fill with, let's say, a 50% gray. And I'm going to create another one of these here, and we'll just take a look at it as a 3-color and a 4-color index separation. And this I'll go ahead and duplicate here, and we'll give this a 30% gray here, and we'll say a 60% gray here. Now, looking at the image, I can see that the grays that I've got, based on understanding my tints and shades, is that I've got a lot of lighter tint of gray in here, and then I've got kind of a medium tint, and then we've got the darker tints. But let's take a look at how this works. I'll create actually another set here, because I'm going to create color palettes from these. We'll go with a lighter gray on this one here, just to see how this reproduces. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and select these objects here. I'm going to make a color palette from these. So I'm going to go to my color palette manager Docker, which is right here. Now, if you don't have that, you can get to that here, Windows, Dockers, and you can go to your color palette Docker and open that up. But I'll take this, and I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to click Create a New Palette from Selected. We'll call that Seps, and I'll select Save, and we'll go ahead and select Yes. Now, an important thing here, I want to make sure my image is at 150 dpi. Now, this is small, and we're doing this kind of small. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger just so we can see how this might work. Now, this image is at 200 dpi, so I'll just go to Bitmap, and I'll go to Resample, and we'll change this to 150 dpi. This is important for our dot size when we're dealing with these types of separations. Now I'll go ahead and duplicate this, and I'll simply go to Bitmap, and I'll go to Mode, and I'll come here to Paletted 8-bit. Now here where I have palette, I'm going to go down to my Seps palette, and we can see that conversion going on there. Now I can select Stuckey, Sternberg, you can see there, these are a couple of different settings for this conversion. I'll go ahead and select OK here on Jarvis. Now if we look at this, it looks like the conversion really wasn't that good. It looks kind of chunky, and the reason being is that because here in Draw, the way it renders that through the computer doesn't look very good. We'll notice some change here. If I just simply go to Bitmap Mode and select CMYK, you can see the change. Now it's rendering better in Draw, but it's really comprised of just those colors. So as I said, as we go out, we'll see that our eye starts to get tricked, and it starts to look like it's a continuous tone image, even though it's only based on 3 different colors: white, the gray, and the black, or 3 different tints, shades, etc. Now we can take this same image again and take a look at this, and you see that this came out a little bit lighter here. So I'm going to go with the darker dots here, where I've just got this darker gray, and you can see how you can experiment with these. I'll go ahead and take these 3 objects here. I'll come back here to my color palette manager Docker, and I'll create another palette called Seps. I'll just overwrite that, select OK, and then I'll go ahead and take this image again, and I'll get a little bit of a different result here. I'll go to bitmaps mode, and I'll select palette at 8-bit. I'll come down here to my Seps palette, and I'll select OK, and I'll go to bitmap so we can get a better preview mode, CMYK, and we can see that there's a bit of a difference here between these two. You look here. Right here you can see some of the changes here. Now we'll take one more look at this, and this time we'll go with a couple more, actually go with one more gray here, and I'll go ahead and select those 3 objects, and I'll go over here, create new palette. We'll call that Seps, and we'll go ahead and save that. And here we'd be printing with black, white, and 2 grays, and we'll go ahead and duplicate this here, and I'll go bitmaps mode, and we'll select palette at 8-bit. We'll go to our Seps palette and select OK. Then we'll go here bitmap mode, and we'll go to CMYK so we get a better preview, and we can see the difference here. So you can see how the number of colors that we work with does affect how we get these conversions. Now I wanted to give you that understanding because we really want to be looking at working with and understanding our tints and shades, and I'll try to get more on that later. Now looking at our tiger, or something like our color representation of this grayscale here with the blue, here we could go with, say, a blue color, which would be a darker blue. So I could come over here and go in and get, say, something like that blue right there, and then another blue, something like this cyan here, but I want to go a little bit darker than that, maybe something like that. And we could have, say, a black also, because it looks like there's some black in there, and our white. Now here I've got black, then I've got my blue, and then I'm working with tints. So I'm working with the tints and shades that are in the image, bringing this down to, say, 4 colors. I'll go ahead and create a palette with this. We'll call that Seps. We're just overwriting that palette we'll use for the conversion. Go ahead and bring this blue down here, duplicate that, we'll resize this, go to bitmaps, resample, make sure we're at 150 dpi. If you can hold higher resolution on your screens, you can do that at 200. Then I'll go to bitmap mode, I'll go to palette at 8-bit again, change to that Seps palette, and select OK, and then I'll go bitmap mode CMYK so it looks better, and you can see how that separates out even though it's just those 4 colors, the blue, the cyan, and the black. So we can do these conversions very quickly and easily. For instance, our tiger here, very easy. We could take some red like we have in the tongue. I'll get a vector object here, and we'll go ahead and duplicate that a couple of times. We'll go with a white, a black, an orange, a yellow, and, say, a pinkish color. So go here, we'll go to a black, make this white, we'll go with, say, a pink like we have in the tongue, which I would say would be right here. We'll get some yellow, and we'll go with an orange also. So that would be my palette for my tiger. Now once again, limited colors because I'm just working within a small spectrum of the colors, so I can do the separation with a few colors. If I had more colors, I need a lot more. Go ahead and create a palette with this. We'll call that Seps, and we'll go ahead and save this. Take our tiger here, we'll go ahead and make him a little bit bigger. Go bitmaps, resample, make sure he's 150 dpi, and select OK. And then we'll go bitmap mode, and we'll go to palette at 8-bit. We'll get that Seps palette that we made. You can see our conversion right there. We'll select OK. Now I'm going to go bitmap mode CMYK just so I get a better preview, and you can see just how good that's going to look when you print it out as an index color separation on a white with just 4 colors. So start our color separation. We'll go ahead with this selected, and I'll go ahead and copy this. One thing you do want to be aware of when you're doing these separations is that you do want to do them 2 sides. Once you've done your conversion to the 8-bit with your color palette for the color separations, you don't want to make the image smaller or bigger, because if you do that, you'll change the size of your squares or dots. So you really have to do these separations 2 sides. Go ahead and with this copy, I'll go ahead and set up a new page here. I'll go ahead and change this to 13 by 19, which is typically your standard inkjet size. I'll hit enter. We'll go ahead and paste this in. Then I'll hit P here. Now here I have my image set up in a new document. I'm going to go ahead and do my separations here directly in CorelDRAW. And I'll be working with the bitmap color mask docker. If you need to bring that up, you can simply go to Windows, Dockers, and then go right here to bitmap color mask. Powerful tool we can use for these index separations directly in CorelDRAW. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start duplicating the page. So down here, page 1, right click, duplicate page. I want to make sure I've got copy layers and their content selected. We'll do that a couple of times for our different separations. Duplicate page, and we'll do the same thing here. Duplicate page, and we'll do it one more time. Right click and duplicate page. Go back here to page 2. Now here on page 2, I'm going to go ahead and pull my black, and I'm going to pull my black by hiding the other colors. And you'll see how this works as we go through it. Go up here to the first color here, and I'll take a look in just this eyedropper, and I can come in here, and I don't want black because I'm not going to hide that color. I'm selecting hide color. So what I want to do is I can actually come through here and click on, say, there's one of the reds. I can select this here, come to the eyedropper, come over here, get, say, a yellow, and I can come to the eyedropper here, select this, and come over here, and I'll get the orange in here somewhere. And then I'll click on apply, and you'll see that's all that's left is my black. So I've just separated my black by hiding the red, yellow, and the orange. So I'll go down to this page tab, I'll right click here, select rename, and we'll change this to black and select OK. Go here to page 3. Here I want to pull the orange, so I'll select my orange here, which is selected and highlighted, and I'll go ahead and eyedrop on a black. So we're going to hide all the colors but the orange. Click on apply. There's my orange. Right click here, and I'll rename this to orange, just so I know what these separations are. Go to page 4. Here on page 4, I'm going to go ahead and pull my yellow, so I'll select the yellow, and I'll come in and eyedrop on an orange, and then when we click on apply, all we have left is our yellow. Right click, rename page, and we'll change that to yellow. Select OK, and then I'll do here on page 5, got to make sure your bitmap's selected, and what I want to get here is my tint, so I'm going to go ahead and select this, my tint of red here, and I'll replace that with a yellow, and I'll click apply, and there's that, and I can right click here and we'll rename this to our red, or what would be our pink tint, and I'll select OK. And of course you'd have to print a pink ink here as opposed to the red, but this is actually a red tint that we're dealing with. Now the next thing I want to do is go ahead and convert these to monochrome bitmaps. So I'll go back here to my black, and I'll go to bitmaps, and I'll select convert to bitmap. Now very important here, we want to be working with the CMYK color model. It's just a little bit more, I guess you get to say, stable in CorelDRAW when you're doing these separations. Make sure anti-aliasing is turned off. You don't need a transparent background. We'll go ahead and select OK. Then we're going to change this to a monochrome bitmap. So I'm going to go bitmap mode, and I'm going to go to black and white. I'm going to select line art, and I'm going to have my threshold all the way up and select OK. And that'll be my black output here. Now this is set to a CMYK 100. If I want to have a darker output to my film, I can double click on this. I'll go to my colors, I'll go to more, and I could do a rich black. If I have cyan, yellow, magenta in my inkjet cartridges, I can print a rich black, which will give me a much darker black than just printing from the black cartridge alone. We could go with 20% in each one of these, in the cyan, magenta, and the yellow for the output through our inkjet, and we'd have a rich black print, which would give us a much darker dot to burn our film with. We could also do all black by changing all of these to 100, and this is when we have all of our cartridges in our inkjet tricked out with black, where we'd have cyan, magenta, and yellow. We actually have black in there. And now when we print this out, I'll go ahead and select OK. We're going to be printing full color from all of the inkjets, and we're going to get a very dark output or an all black output for our films that we're going to burn our screens with. Go here to the orange, we'll go to bitmaps, convert to bitmap, CMYK 150 dpi, no anti-alias, select OK. Bitmap mode, and we'll select black and white. We'll select OK. Now if we want to, we can change this for output down here. Go to our yellow, do the same thing, bitmaps, mode, excuse me, got to do a conversion here first. And then we'll go bitmaps, mode, and we'll go black and white, and select OK, and that would be our yellow. Same thing for the red, bitmaps, convert to bitmap, CMYK, select OK, bitmap, mode, and black and white. Select OK, and that would be our red. Now these are all monochrome bitmaps, and once again you could go through here and change these all based on how you'd like to output your dots, either simple black, rich black, or all black. Now what I'd like to do at this point is we'll go ahead and go to the black page here. We'll go ahead and duplicate this page. And I'll go ahead and take this page 1 here that was black, and we can just move this over here. I'll take this page 3 and bring this back here now, page 2. I'll right click here, I'll rename this to, let's just say, our comp, so we can take a look at our colors here, select OK. Go ahead and here and get my orange, go ahead and copy that. Go to my comp page, go ahead and paste that in from my CMYK palette. I'll left click to make my background transparent, right click on the orange to change that foreground color to orange with my monochrome bitmap. I'll go ahead and get my yellow here, we'll do the same, copy, go back to our comp, go ahead and paste that in, left click to take out the background color, make that transparent, right click to change the foreground to yellow. Then I'll go back here, get my red, we'll go ahead and copy this, we'll go back to our comp page, go ahead and paste this in, left click to knock out the background, and then we can change our foreground color here with, I want to make sure I got the 4060 here. There we go. And that would be our red tint or our pink. Now I can go ahead and take this, just duplicate this over here to the right. I'll go back to page 1, which is my original, and we'll take a preview and see how this is going to look. We'll go to bitmaps, convert to bitmap, CMYK 150 dpi, select OK. Now you can see that came out really dark, and I wanted to show you this so you can be aware of it if you're doing some checking here. Now the reason that happened is because we changed that black to 100% of all the different colors, so it's much darker than a standard CMYK black, and that's going to reflect in CorelDRAW. Let's go ahead and hit Control Z. Go ahead and click my way through here on Alt. I can see I'm on the tint or the pink here. Hold down Alt and click. There's the yellow, there's the orange, here's the black. I'll go and change this from the 100/100 down here to the standard black. Go ahead and select all of this. We'll go bitmaps, convert to bitmap, CMYK, select OK, and then we can see the quality of our color separation based on our pages. Now if you want to, you can go put registration marks here on your separation, set them out for the type of black output that you want to output it as, and then output your separations to film directly from within CorelDRAW. Kind of long session here, we've covered a lot of territory, but this is how we could work with index style color separations in CorelDRAW. We'll go ahead and wrap here, and we'll see you in our next video session.